Hi, I'm Ron Nutter, and welcome to another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter. And this time I'm going to show you not one, not two, not three, but 4 ways to get more HDMI ports when you start increasing some of the stuff in your smart home. And that starts now. Well, they say the only difference between men and boys is the price of their toys, and occasionally it's going to get a little bit more than that. Talked about in the previous video where, dealing with multiple smart media players and choosing the right one. Well, it's entirely possible. If you're like me, I've got a Blu-ray player, I've got a DVD player, and you're going to say, hold it, you can do both with one. Not always. I have found some of the older DVDs do not like to play in the Blu-ray player. They'll hang for whatever reason, or they'll pixelate, or there's several things. So I just, at this point, until I find a player that really is going to work well, I keep 2 separate players. Okay, so there's 2 inputs. Well, if you've been working with any of the Google Chromecast devices, okay, there's 3. If you have okay, so we got DVD, Blu-ray, Chromecast, and then if you've got any sort of 1 or 2 streaming players, they're streaming receivers. Okay, the TVs that I'm used to seeing at most will have 4 HDMI ports. Well, now what are you going to do? That's going to be, how is the best way to fix it? And we're going to talk about 4 ways to do it. For those of you who are listening to this on the podcast, I'll try to do a good job of describing to you what we're seeing, and then when you've got time, you can go back and look at the video for maybe some things that I missed. So the most economic way out of the gate will be to use an HDMI switch. Now, you'll have to unplug one of your devices to plug this in, and then what will happen there, so this will be the port that goes to the TV, and we're looking at the back of this Dingson HDMI switch, and there's several out there. This is just the one I found that seemed to be reasonable for the price. So you're going to have 1 cable there, and then you've got up to 4 other ports where you can tie devices in on. So by putting this in line, you're going to have 2 ports taken up right away: the output port, which you would have anyway, and then the port of the device that you're putting us in between. So it gives you 3 more ports. Can you go past that? I don't know. I didn't really look for a high density device because this was more of kind of a bridge option to get it, get you up and running. Now, the downside with this, and I'm not criticizing the Dingson device, it's yet another remote, and the whole purpose to me on doing this is to ideally, with voice control, whether it be Alexa or what have you, that you have the ability to not have to use any remotes, ideally. I mean, that's the end game that I'm going towards. So hopefully, that will be readily achievable. So this is a intermediate solution to look at. Now, another option to look at, depending on the age of your television, maybe it's time to consider getting a new TV. Now, for example, mine is, it's about 10 years old right now. Still going fine. It's HD only and won't do the 4K or the UHD. I don't know. That's not a big thing for me because HD is still, it does fine for the materials and the receivers that I've got, and I just haven't seen a desire to make the upgrade, unlike the days when the tube sets were around and you pretty much had to do something within a certain number of years span because the tube would gradually get dimmer and dimmer. And even the last tube sets they produced, I don't care who the manufacturer was, they would start dimming down. That was just the nature of the beast. There was a way you could kind of re-energize the tubes, but it didn't always yield as good a results as you would hope for, and sometimes it may have caused a problem. So that is an option, especially when you get into, you might get one that is less than what you pay for the one now. Might have more inputs, but there's a lot of mites in there, and is it going to be worth it? I mean, because at this point, from a 4K standpoint, I'm not aware of any television stations that are broadcasting in 4K. It's pretty much the streaming media or the 4K Blu-rays that they're doing it. So, and I've not seen that much content, but I don't go out looking for that kind of thing all the time. So there's two options. Now, option number 3, and you've heard me talk about this, and that is the Cavo device. Now, I do have one on order. According to tracking information, I should have it by the middle of the week. And we'll see from there. Now, this is a good illustration of my next 2 points. So thank you, folks at Cavo, for having this kind of graphic out there. Now, you can see here's probably something referencing the Apple streaming TV device. Then you've got the Roku. You've got the Amazon Fire, some other device there, DVD or Blu-ray, and then the Chromecast device. And that's more kind of a Gen 1 Chromecast, but it's still, I quit using my Chromecast device because I had to unplug it so I could use something else, and it just, going behind the TV or beside the TV and changing things around is not exactly my favorite thing to do. And especially if you're in a very nice home theater system, then that's probably even less of an option. So here's what the Cavo does. It gives you 8 inputs. And I challenge the average person to is probably not going to have 8 inputs. You might have a gaming console, which is probably what that might be representing. So you've got, for example, I got 4 different streaming media receivers. Okay, there's 4, plus Blu-ray, plus DVD. I'm at 6. That still gives me 2 more inputs to work with. Now, this does have a $400 price tag to it. I have seen it for as little as $200, and I did catch mine on that kind of a deal. And of all things, it was a Facebook ad, which I normally ignore, and it just happened to catch my attention. So for $200, I figured it was worth taking a look at. Now, this is where we're going to get into the next device, and that's your AV receiver. Now, here's what the Cavo has to offer. Because of the way it uses to discover all the devices out there, and it's going to probe them and see what services you've got running. I mean, for example, it will link with, hold on, I'm trying to scroll on the wrong screen here. That shows you the different services that it knows how to leverage. So, example, it ties into Amazon Alexa. It understands Apple TV, Fire TV, Prime Video, which is good if it understands Alexa. I would hope it would understand Prime Video. Not real clear on how back they go, far they go with Chromecast. Let's see, of what I've got here, it understands Plex, so I've got a Plex server running. Now that I haven't tied directly into the TV because I pick it up through either my Roku or Amazon Fire TV, or the NVIDIA Shield. So you see, it understands about all these. Now, here is something, this is very interesting. This is the Sling service, and for those of you who like, or know somebody who likes watching the Hallmark channels, Sling is probably the most economical way to get all 3 of the Hallmark channels. They got TNT, TBS, YouTube, very important. I'll be anxious to see how that works, because I use YouTube primarily on the Roku or the NVIDIA Shield, since Amazon and Google aren't getting along real well. And hopefully, guys, you can bury the hatchet, because it's, you're all just hurting yourselves, because, we will go where we have to get the content. So this gives you an idea of what's available. Now, you have, like I said, you have the option, and this supports Amazon. I think it's probably an Amazon scale. I just said, mine hasn't arrived yet, and I haven't looked that far into the documentation. It's either tying it in through an Amazon Alexa skill, or there's you've got the voice remote. So there's a lot of learning I can see that I've got coming on. But this way, I'm still staying to the stereo component type of approach, which is what I'm more comfortable with, because I don't want everything sitting in the TV. Yes, it's nice. Yes, it's convenient. But when something acts up, then you're forced to make a change that's going to affect multiple devices anyway. So why bother? Now, by the default operation, well, not default, but if you don't have an AV receiver, and if you're not familiar with the term, it's audiovisual. Not everybody may know that term. I know I certainly was one I'd heard, but I just didn't bother to dig into it. So you can tie the Cavo directly into the TV. And of course, you get your sound out of the TV like you're used to now. When you add an AV receiver, then what will happen is Cavo sends to the AV receiver. The AV receiver strips out the audio at that point and plays them through the speakers that are hooked up to it and sends the video on then to the TV. Is it an extra hop? Well, yeah, but let's face it, TVs are not known for having the best speakers in the world. That's why you have an amplifier sitting out here. And with an AV receiver, you've got the best of both worlds, and you let this handle all the switching, because the highest port count I've seen is 6. Now, you can probably get them higher than that, but then you're spending thousands of dollars probably. And my whole thought process, and let's switch over now to the next part, is I was trying to do this without spending a young fortune. I reached out to the folks at Denon, couldn't really get any assistance there to see how best would I be able to use their products, which surprised me, but that's fine. I went on and looked at other options. The one I found here, now, yes, this is, it's $280. It's considered an entry-level device by some folks, but here's why I'm probably going to go with this one. With this being my first AV receiver, I'm not sure what's going to be most important to me. Now, for the true audiophiles in the group, please bear with me, because you know the difference between the 5.1 and the 7.2 and these kind of things. To me, regular stereo probably will be just fine. Now, over time, as I get to learn the different devices and as I have a receiver capable of this, then that's going to be different. But one of the things I wanted to do out of the gate is make sure that this worked with Alexa, because since Cavo is going to, I wanted this to it, because ideally I would like to have the whole thing, even if I can only do it with Alexa, and in time there may be other ways of doing it. I'll certainly explore those as the equipment comes in. Like I said, Cavo's going to be here Wednesday. I'm going to play with it for probably a couple weeks before I bring the AV receiver into the picture, because I could have an AV receiver in a couple of days. And it's entirely possible that it may be in the Amazon warehouse near me. But this is an option. It has 4 inputs on the back. It has 1 optical. So if you are playing something on the TV that's not going through this, then the optical link will be important. Your higher up models of the AV receivers will generally have probably 2 opticals. And there's a way if you need more opticals than that, but then we're getting back into the HDMI switch kind of deal, and I'm trying to minimize the number of extra connections. So this is kind of the game plan that you're looking at with doing managing multiple HDMI devices, whether it's multiple streaming receivers, if you've got Blu-ray, DVD, Chromecast, and other devices yet to be defined. There's got to be a way to keep all these manageable, because I can get them behind the TV and change cables. That's not the problem. But I don't like having to do it all the time, because if I have to go change a cable to something, then I may not be as likely to use it. Where if I can just select it and go on, this is where Cavo is really in the sweet spot, I think. And they've only been out for, I think it's about a year now, and I think they're only going to be distributing about 5,000 devices in 2018. And I have a feeling that we may be looking at an announcement from them sometime later this year. Don't know anything for sure, but I think right now Cavo is really kind of going to be the brains or control central. At least it has the potential of being, because you'll have the remote that will tie in all the different devices. You just plug them in. Cavo will figure out what's going on, and you will have the opportunity of selecting, say, if you're getting Sling, that it always goes to the Roku device as the primary device. Now, say the Roku device is disconnected, dies, whatever, the Kavo device, from the reviews that I've seen, information I've looked up, has enough intelligence, it flips to another device or will give you a drop-down menu of saying, hey, which one do you want this to play on? And hopefully the voice control will have that as well. So this is the direction that I'm looking at going. We've certainly I could have gone the HDMI switch, but that's just a Band-Aid solution really for me at this point with the number of devices I've got, and it's yet another remote. I mean, I've already lost my Apple TV remote, and that's the subject for another video. So I'm trying to find something where I don't have to have the remotes. There may be times, such as say if you've had a sinus flare up and your voice is not what it could be, you may have to go back to the remotes. But the remotes should not have to be your first line of defense, and this is where Kavo's, I think, hitting the sweet spot. So between it, going to an AV receiver, I might end up with a fairly nice home theater system. Certainly not on the order of what some people have done with the 80-inch screens and all that, but for what my needs are, I think it will be sufficient. But we'll explore all this together. And if you've got questions as I start implementing the different pieces, please let me know. I'll be glad to share my experiences with you. And the Kavo device company does not have an affiliate program, so I've just got the link in the show notes for you for their website. But at this point, it has all the potential of being a very promising device. I've got affiliate links down in there for the HDMI switch, so if that's going to be what will fit your needs for now, that's fine. I've got the home receiver from Yamaha. I did put a link for Denon in there. Again, I was trying to go with an entry level option there. So that kind of sets the game for what we're looking at. I didn't even explore any other televisions because in my case, the LG I've got is just fine. I really haven't seen a need at this point. I mean, 4K has been out for a while, but I have a tendency to skip generations of things. So maybe when 8K comes out, I might look at getting a television. Of course, the LG I've got is about that thick. It's about 3-4 inches thick on the back end. Of course, now they've got them, they're, less than an inch in some cases. So we'll see. But I want to explore some of that. And hopefully I'll have a chance to go to the Consumer Electronics Show next year and look at some of this firsthand and be able to give you all some better appraisals of things. So appreciate your time watching the video. As you heard me mention earlier, and I said this in some detail on the last video, this is running in parallel with the podcast I'm doing, which basically I'm taking the audio from this and making it into a podcast. I've got it on iTunes. I've got it on Stitcher. I've got it on TuneIn. Got it on Google Playcast. And if you haven't already got an account on TuneIn, TuneIn's an interesting way, especially with the Roku, that you can listen to the podcast on your television. And if there's a sufficient interest in it, then I might look at doing a podcast as well on the video side of things to give you another option to, where if you don't want to go to YouTube, that you'll have that as well. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Thank you for your time and watching, and we'll see you in the next video.